Recorded Books and RB Digital present When Reagan Sent in the Marines, The Invasion of Lebanon, by Patrick J. Sloyan. Narrated by Richard Poe. Prologue. When President Ronald Reagan agreed to support Israel's invasion of Lebanon, he had neither the background nor the foresight to anticipate the river of blood that it would unleash. His disinterest in world affairs made him an easy mark for his unruly Secretary of State, Alexander Haig, Israel's obsessed Prime Minister, Menachem Begin, and its duplicitous Minister of Defense, Ariel Sharon. Their ambition was to use American military hardware and Israeli troops to change the map of the Mideast. They sucked the unwitting Reagan into a confrontation with ferocious and relentless opponents, who conducted diplomacy with knives and bombs. It ended in defeat and blood-spattered humiliation for both Israel and the United States. Surrounded by conflict, ignorance, and incompetence in Washington, Reagan guided U.S. foreign policy to a low point few presidents can match. Alexander Haig sold Reagan on the Jerusalem government's ambitions primarily as a way to inflict a blow on the Soviet Union's most important client in the Mideast, Syria. In 1981, Reagan was on an anti-Moscow tear, undermining leftist governments in Latin America, Africa, and Afghanistan. He so terrorized the Kremlin that they actually feared Reagan was pushing World War III. Attacking Lebanon also meant attacking President Hafez al-Assad of Syria, who had 35,000 troops occupying Beirut and Lebanon's Bekaa Valley, and was contemplating annexing Lebanon. War with Syria was a certain result of Prime Minister Begin's invasion of Israel's northern neighbor. Along with Defense Minister Sharon, Begin was determined to finish off the Palestine Liberation Organization, which was encamped in southern Lebanon and West Beirut, and also got help from Moscow. With Syria out of the way, Begin planned to install a pro-Jerusalem Christian warlord as president of Lebanon. At one point, Reagan secretly approved $10 million for Bashir Gemayel, Begin's hand-picked future leader of Lebanon. Israel would have a peace treaty with Lebanon in the north, just as it did with Egypt in the south. In the end, however, Gemayel was assassinated and Israel withdrew, leaving Reagan as the rear guard in Beirut. In some ways, Reagan was a victim of policies of his predecessors and events he understood vaguely, if at all. Since the birth of Israel, U.S. policy had supported it at almost every turn of wars with its Arab enemies in 1948, 1967, and 1973. American weapons were supplied to help defend the tiny Jewish nation. Jerusalem's atomic bomb project at Dimona, underwritten primarily by France, had been quietly accepted by every American president since Dwight D. Eisenhower. A landmark in the arming of Israel came after Anwar el-Sadat's surprise attack on Israeli troops during the Yom Kippur War of 1973. The Egyptian president's forces ravaged Israeli armor and warplanes. President Richard Nixon resupplied the country with an astounding $2 billion in new warplanes, tanks, and munitions from American military stocks and factories. Later presidents, and even more often bipartisan U.S. Congresses, gave Israel, as loans that were rarely repaid, squadrons of the world's most advanced supersonic aircraft, F-15 Eagles and F-16 Falcons, and warfighting electronics. This multi-billion-dollar American arsenal came with Defense and State Department restrictions. None of it could be used for aggressive purposes, only defense of Israel. Those prohibitions were effectively waived when Haig, a retired four-star general, gave Begin the green light for the invasion of Lebanon in 1981. When Israeli forces rolled into Lebanon in June of 1982, America's most sophisticated weapons were used to destroy the Syrian Air Force. In 2 days, the Israelis piloted Eagles and Falcons and downed at least 86 Soviet-made warplanes. Statements by the White House, State Department, and Pentagon made clear Reagan's support for what Israel called Operation Peace for Galilee. When Sharon's attack stalled against Syrian troops in Lebanon,
Sample complete. Ready to continue?